Have you ever wondered about the enigmatic history of witchcraft and the witch trials that swept across continents? Witchcraft, a term that sends a chill down the spine, yet sparks a morbid curiosity, has been a part of human history for much longer than most realize. Its origins are shrouded in mystery, deep within the annals of time. Yet the echoes of witchcraft resonate throughout history, leaving an indelible mark on societies across the globe. The earliest known records of witchcraft date back to the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Greece. These societies held a mixed view of witches and their craft. In some circles, witches were revered as wise healers, their knowledge of herbs and natural remedies sought after. Yet, in others, they were feared and shunned, their powers perceived as a threat to the natural order. But what exactly did these ancient societies think of witches? Well, they were seen as intermediaries between the human and spiritual realms, capable of invoking spells and incantations to influence the world around them. They were also believed to be in possession of a unique knowledge, a secret wisdom that set them apart from the rest of society. As we traverse through time, we witness a shift in societal perceptions of witchcraft. The once revered or at least tolerated practice began to be viewed with increasing suspicion and fear. A sense of dread and uncertainty began to permeate the societies of the Middle Ages, and the image of the witch transformed from a wise healer to a malevolent sorceress. The societal view of witchcraft was further tainted by religious doctrines and superstitions of the time. Witches were no longer seen as mere channels of the spiritual world. Instead, they were deemed heretics, consorts of the devil, and enemies of the church. And so, as the fear and misunderstanding of witchcraft grew, the stage was set for one of the darkest chapters in human history, the witch trials. As we journey through time, our understanding of witchcraft takes on a more sinister turn. As fear and misunderstanding grew, so did the infamous witch trials. It's a chilling phrase that echoes the dark times when the paranoia of witchcraft swept across Europe and America. The invisible menace, veiled in mystery and dread, sparked a wave of trials that have since become a notorious chapter in our history. The commencement of the witch trials was a complex cocktail of socio-political tensions, religious fervor, and a profound fear of the unknown. Communities, gripped by panic and suspicion, began to turn on each other, with accusations of witchcraft becoming a common occurrence. The most infamous of these persecutions were the Salem witch trials. In the small village of Salem, Massachusetts, in late 17th century, a series of bizarre afflictions among young girls led to a full-blown witch hunt. The villagers, driven by a terrifying blend of religious extremism and mass hysteria, accused over 200 people of practicing witchcraft. But how did these trials unfold? Typically, an accusation would be made, often by someone who believed they had been harmed or cursed by the alleged witch. The accused would then stand trial, with the proceedings heavily weighed against them. Evidence, often based on hearsay, spectral evidence, or the presence of physical witches' marks, was presented. The sad reality was that many of these trials were far from fair, and the accused were often presumed guilty until proven innocent, a reversal of justice that led to tragic outcomes. The toll of these witch trials was devastating. Countless lives were lost, families torn apart, and communities left scarred by the aftermath. The trials were not just about witchcraft. They were a reflection of the societal fears and prejudices of the time. They were a manifestation of the struggle for power, the fear of the other, the scapegoating of the vulnerable, and the suppression of dissent. The trials were a grim testament to the power of fear and prejudice. They serve as a stark reminder of the dangerous paths societies can tread when fear overrides reason and suspicion becomes a powerful weapon. As we delve deeper into the enigmatic history of witchcraft, we continue to unravel the complex tapestry of human fear, power, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown. But even the darkest times must come to an end. Thus, the era of witch trials began to wane, its dying embers flickering out as society evolved and perspectives shifted. This was not an overnight change, but a slow, gradual process that spanned several decades. The last known witch trials, held in the late 17th century, were the final echoes of a time when fear ruled over logic. These proceedings, once rampant and widespread, began to dwindle in number. The once roaring flame of hysteria was reduced to a mere spark, eventually extinguished by the winds of change. Several factors contributed to this decline. The Enlightenment, a period of intellectual and philosophical growth, played a significant role. People began to question the irrational fear of witchcraft, choosing reason and science over superstition. The rise of skepticism and a demand for concrete evidence marked a significant shift in societal attitudes, shaking the very foundations upon which the witch trials were built. Legal reforms also played a part. Courts started requiring more substantial evidence before condemning someone as a witch. Hearsay, spectral evidence, and confessions extracted under duress were no longer deemed sufficient. The scales of justice, once heavily tipped by fear and prejudice, began to balance. Moreover, the voices of dissent grew louder. Prominent figures questioned the validity of the trials, sparking debates and discussions. These voices of reason were the beacons of light that guided society out of the darkness. However, the end of the witch trials did not mean the end of witchcraft. It simply marked a shift in societal perceptions. Witchcraft, once feared and reviled, began to be viewed through a different lens. The witches of old, once symbols of evil and malice, were replaced by a more nuanced understanding of witchcraft and its practitioners. Yet the legacy of the trials continued to echo through the centuries, a chilling reminder of a time when fear and hysteria reigned supreme. As the trials faded into history, so did the fear of witches. Or did it? From feared to revered, the perception of witches has dramatically altered in modern times. Our journey through the enigmatic history of witchcraft has taken us from the fear and misunderstanding of the past to a present where witchcraft is not only accepted, but also celebrated in many circles. In this contemporary era, we see a resurgence of interest in witchcraft, a phenomenon that is multifaceted and complex. On one hand, there is a revival of traditional witchcraft practices, with people delving into ancient lore and rituals, seeking a connection to nature and the spiritual world. These modern witches, often identifying as Wiccans or pagans, adopt a practice that is deeply personal and varied, celebrating the divine feminine and the cycles of the moon. On the other hand, we see the influence of pop culture in reshaping our perceptions of witches and witchcraft. Film and literature have played a significant role in this transformation. From the whimsical witches of Harry Potter to the empowered witches of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, these pop culture icons have replaced the haggard evil witches of yore with figures of power, resilience, and wisdom. Yet it's essential to note that modern witchcraft isn't just about spellcasting and rituals. It's also about social activism and feminism. Many modern witches use their practices as a form of resistance against societal norms and patriarchal structures, championing equality, environmentalism, and social justice. This intersection of ancient practices, pop culture, and social activism gives modern witchcraft a unique flavor, making it a fascinating study of how old beliefs can be reinterpreted and repurposed for the present. So, while the practices of modern witches may be far removed from their historical counterparts, the fascination with witchcraft remains. It continues to captivate us, drawing us into a world of mystery, power, and connection. Today, witchcraft is not just a historical curiosity, but a living, breathing part of our cultural landscape. Modern witches may be far removed from their historical counterparts, but the fascination with witchcraft remains. So, what can we learn from the enigmatic history of witchcraft and the witch trials? The tale of witchcraft and the witch trials is a rich tapestry woven with threads of fear, superstition, and the human quest for understanding. It's a story that has spanned centuries and continents, and its echoes continue to resound in our modern world. The witch trials began in a time of turmoil and uncertainty, a time when the unknown was often met with fear and suspicion. They were fueled by a potent blend of religious fervor and societal upheaval, and they resulted in the persecution of countless innocent people. The trials were not just about witchcraft, but rather, they were a manifestation of humanity's fear of the unfamiliar and the unexplained. As we moved into the modern era, perceptions of witchcraft began to shift. Today, witchcraft is often seen as a symbol of empowerment and rebellion against societal norms. It's a reminder that there is power in the marginalized, in the misunderstood, in the outcasts. But perhaps the most enduring aspect of witchcraft is its mystery. Despite centuries of study and speculation, there is still so much that remains unknown. Why were certain individuals targeted as witches? What role did societal pressures play in the trials? And what does the enduring fascination with witchcraft tell us about ourselves? These are questions without easy answers. But by delving into the history of witchcraft and the witch trials, we can gain a deeper understanding of the complex interplay between fear, belief, and power. We can learn that fear can often lead to persecution, that belief can be a powerful tool for control, and that those who are different or misunderstood are often the ones who bear the brunt of societal fear and suspicion. In the end, the enigmatic history of witchcraft and the witch trials serves as a mirror, reflecting our own fears, biases, and beliefs back at us. It's a reminder of the power of fear, the danger of unchecked belief, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Perhaps the most important question remains: what does the history of witchcraft reveal about human fear and the power of belief?